by and large, we've seen the market sort of discount escalating trade concerns, and especially after last week, we got some positive news with negotiations between the EU. It looks like there's progress on NAFTA. There could be some deal coming soon on that. So I think people kind of put it to the back burner. Getting this announcement of going from 10 to 25% sort of reminds people this is still not resolved. What it feels like is the administration has kind of cleared the deck and is putting sort of all the focus on China right now. I kind of view this more as they're trying to get the Chinese to offer some sort of concessions.
Right.
As you raise it, so you go from 10 to 25%, you don't just hurt the Chinese, you're starting to hurt the U.S. economy, getting import prices higher, prices going up. So it seems to me they're like saying, please, we don't want to do this, but we'll have to if you don't come to the table.
Is it good news if we're still looking at this idea of kind of ending some of the trade battles and skirmishes that we've seen with Canada, with Mexico, with the EU, focusing on China? I mean, that's something that a lot of people have said they'd rather see happen, that if you're going to negotiate with China, you need to get others on your side.
Get everyone on board, take off things like auto tariffs, which would probably be more harmful for the U.S. economy, for the markets in the short term. The issue with China, this is a long-term story, right? This is not going to go away, which means I think it's a reality that we have to deal with. And it's better to have a united front dealing with China as opposed to kind of a scattershot approach that they were taking before.
Michelle, how much of an impact is this on the economy right now, and when would you expect it to be a bigger deal?
So I don't actually think we're seeing any evidence, I shouldn't say any evidence, but broad-based evidence of it in the numbers. Of course, we're watching all of the sentiment gauges, all of the company and CEO comments to the extent that uncertainty is causing them to take more of a measured approach, particularly when it comes to CapEx spending. But, we're continuing to see very strong consumer demand, business investment, and the second quarter GDP numbers were strong, and the momentum heading into the third quarter looks good. So, I mean, to date, I think people are hopeful that a lot of this is going to end up being, more bark than bite, and that this will not, and even looking further ahead, when you look at what we saw with the EU last week, that we end up potentially in the longer run in a better place, which is I think what the president and the administration are hoping for.
If you do see 25% tariffs on this additional $200 billion, I mean, you would expect that to start popping up in prices at Walmart and Target and things.
Absolutely. Well, so I think the thing more for me than the 10%, the 25% versus the 10% is the breadth of it. Because with the first round of tariffs against China, they went out of their way, of course, to exclude products that would impact the consumer. When you start broadening out and you're talking about $200 billion, you're going to have a number of consumer products, and whether it's 10% or 25%, either way, the consumer is going to feel it. I think the bigger impact will be on inflation, probably more than on growth, and I think that's something that obviously everyone is very watchful for. We see it even looking in fixed income markets and inflation expectations and so forth.
And, Jason, I guess the other big thing of note yesterday was the bond market. Although the Fed meeting was a bit of a non-event, we did cross 3% again on the 10-year. Is that an important level that you think we can now break out from and move higher, or will we stay in that kind of range that we've been recently?
If you look going back to sort of February, March, the 10-year has been between about 2.7 and 3.1%. It's been in that range. It's likely to stay in that range. If we see over the past week, the 10-year's moved about 15 basis points. A lot of it seems like it's technically related.